I stood in my driveway staring at my late husband's woodworking tools scattered across the wet grass like discarded memories. 37 years of marriage reduced to what my daughter in law called useless junk. When Amanda appeared on my front porch with that smug smile declaring they had decided to do some cleaning, something inside me snapped. I looked her straight in the eyes and said quietly, "Then I'll clean out what's useless to me, too." She had no idea I had just discovered the real reason behind this sudden spring cleaning. My name is Janice, and at 67 years old, I thought I understood what family meant. When my husband Frank passed away from a heart attack 2 years ago, I believed the worst pain of my life was behind me. Frank and I had built a beautiful life together in our 4-bedroom colonial home in suburban Westerville, Ohio. We'd paid off the mortgage years earlier, and the house was worth nearly $500,000 according to the last assessment. Our son Derek, now 42, had always been what you might call a follower rather than a leader. When he married Amanda 8 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms. She seemed sweet enough, though there was something calculating behind those green eyes that I chose to ignore. They blessed us with twin granddaughters Lucy and Sophie, who just turned 6 this past spring. Everything changed 6 months ago when Derek lost his marketing position at the regional insurance company. Amanda worked part-time at a dental office, bringing in maybe $1,500 a month, hardly enough to support a family of 4. When they asked if they could move in temporarily while Derek searched for new employment, how could I say no? They were struggling, and family helps family. The arrangement seemed reasonable at first. I had plenty of space, and having the girls around filled some of the emptiness Frank's death had left behind. But temporary stretched into months, and their contributions to household expenses remained non-existent. I found myself covering all utilities, groceries, property taxes, and maintenance costs, while Derek spent his days supposedly job hunting, and Amanda worked her few shifts each week. My daily routine became an exhausting cycle of childcare and household management. Every morning, I'd wake at 6 to prepare breakfast for everyone before Amanda left for work. Then I'd get the twins ready for school, pack their lunches, and handle the school drop-off since Derek claimed he needed the car for interviews. After school, I'd supervise homework, prepare dinner for 5 people, do laundry for the entire household, and manage bedtime routines. Amanda's criticisms started small. My meatloaf was too salty. The living room furniture looked dated. Frank's workshop in the basement was taking up valuable storage space. When I suggested we might consider updating a few things gradually, she'd launch into detailed explanations about modern design principles and how my generation simply didn't understand contemporary living. Derek always supported his wife during these conversations. "Mom, you know Amanda just wants to help modernize things," he'd say with that weak smile I'd grown to despise. "Maybe she has a point about some of the old furniture." My sister Carol visited from Chicago last month and pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Janice, honey, they're taking advantage of you," she whispered, while Amanda entertained the twins in the next room. "You're doing everything while they contribute nothing. This isn't how family treats family." I defended them naturally. Derek was my only child, and those little girls needed stability during their father's unemployment. "They're going through a rough patch," I told Carol. "Once Derek finds work, things will get back to normal." But normal seemed increasingly elusive. I started noticing small things that bothered me. Pills in Amanda's purse that looked like anxiety medication, though she'd never mentioned any health issues. Shopping receipts hidden in their bedroom for expensive clothing purchases while claiming they couldn't afford to help with groceries. Amanda's mother, Beverly, making frequent visits during which both women would make subtle comments about old people hoarding unnecessary possessions. The comments from neighbors started reaching me through my friend Martha, who lived across the street. Apparently, Amanda had been telling people that she'd inherited the house and was caring for elderly Janice. She painted herself as the devoted daughter-in-law, managing the household of a woman whose best days were behind her. 3 weeks ago, I overheard something that chilled me to the bone. Amanda was on her cell phone in the backyard, speaking in hushed tones while the twins played on their swing set. I was tending my tomato plants near the fence when her voice carried clearly through the evening air. "The old bat won't live forever," she said with casual cruelty. "Derek's too spineless to ask her to move to assisted living, but we just need to be patient a little longer. Once we have control of this place, everything changes." My hands trembled as I gripped my gardening tools. The woman living under my roof eating my food and pretending to care about my well-being was essentially planning my demise. But instead of confronting her immediately, something told me to wait and learn more. If Amanda was plotting something, I needed to understand the full scope before taking action. The psychological warfare began subtly the very next week. My reading glasses disappeared from their usual spot on the kitchen counter. When I mentioned it during breakfast, Amanda looked concerned and suggested, "Maybe you should retrace your steps, Janice. Memory can play tricks on us as we get older." The glasses turned up 2 days later in the refrigerator, though I had no recollection of putting them there. Amanda discovered them while reaching for milk and made a gentle comment about how we all get absent-minded sometimes. Derek nodded sympathetically and suggested I might benefit from a doctor's appointment to discuss these little episodes. My car keys went missing next. I always hung them on the hook by the garage door, but one Tuesday morning they were nowhere to be found. Amanda helped me search, looking genuinely worried as we checked every logical location. "This is the second time this week you've misplaced something important," she said while we looked through my purse for the third time. "Maybe we should schedule that doctor's visit Derek mentioned." The keys were eventually located in my bedroom dresser drawer, tucked beneath some old photographs. Once again, I had no memory of placing them there. Amanda's suggestion about seeing Dr. Rodriguez suddenly seemed less insulting and more necessary. Without consulting me, Derek scheduled an appointment with my longtime physician. He presented it as Amanda's idea, claiming she was genuinely concerned about my forgetfulness and wanted to rule out any serious medical issues. "She cares about you, Mom," he insisted when I protested the presumption. "We all do." The kitchen became Amanda's next target for reorganization. She rearranged every cabinet and drawer, claiming she was making things more efficient and accessible. When I couldn't find the coffee filters or my favorite mixing bowls, she'd appear instantly to help, gently suggesting that maybe the new system was confusing because change becomes harder to adapt to as we age. Beverly's visits became more frequent and extended. Amanda's mother would arrive for long weekends, treating my home like a hotel while making passive-aggressive observations about my housekeeping and lifestyle choices. "Janice keeps so many unnecessary items," she'd tell Amanda loud enough for me to hear. "It's almost like hoarding behavior, very common in elderly people who've experienced loss." The mail situation particularly disturbed me. Amanda began intercepting deliveries, sorting through everything before I saw it. She claimed this was helpful organization, ensuring bills were prioritized and junk mail eliminated. But I started noticing that some correspondence seemed to arrive later than expected, and Amanda always had explanations about postal delays or misdelivered items. Several treasured possessions disappeared during Amanda's cleaning frenzies. A ceramic vase Frank had given me for our 20th anniversary vanished from the mantelpiece. When I asked about it, Amanda looked genuinely distressed and explained that it had been accidentally broken during dusting. She'd thrown it away rather than upset me with the news, intending to replace it when finances improved. My grandmother's quilted throw, which had covered our sofa for 15 years, was donated to charity during what Amanda called a spring cleaning initiative. She apologized profusely, claiming she thought I'd grown tired of it since I'd mentioned the colors looking faded in certain light. The most unsettling development was Amanda's decision to arrange for home health aid consultations. Without my knowledge or consent, she scheduled visits from 3 different agencies explaining to each representative that I was experiencing confusion and memory problems that concerned the family. These women would arrive expecting to assess an elderly person's care needs, finding me perfectly coherent but clearly ambushed by the situation. Amanda documented everything in a small notebook she kept in her purse. I glimpsed it once when she left the bag open on the kitchen counter. Pages filled with dated entries described supposed incidents of forgetfulness, confusion, and concerning behavior. Forgot to turn off stove burner. Couldn't remember granddaughter's teacher's name. Seemed disoriented when answering phone. Derek grew increasingly distant during this period. He spent more time at Beverly's house with the twins, claiming the environment there was more peaceful for their homework and playtime. When he was home, he treated me with the careful consideration one might show a fragile psychiatric patient, speaking slowly and avoiding topics that might cause stress or confusion. Amanda began hosting a neighborhood book club at my house, introducing me to the attendees as Derek's mother who lives with us. The subtle shift in language wasn't lost on me. I was no longer the homeowner graciously allowing family to stay temporarily. I had become the elderly relative being cared for by the younger generation. Technology became another weapon in Amanda's arsenal. She changed the Wi-Fi password, claiming the old one wasn't secure enough, and that internet safety was especially important for older users who might accidentally click malicious links. Without access to my usual websites and email, I felt increasingly isolated from the outside world. The most chilling discovery came when I found Amanda's laptop left open on the dining room table. The browser history revealed extensive research into power of attorney laws, elder care facilities, and legal processes for declaring someone mentally incompetent. She'd been studying the signs of dementia, the requirements for guardianship, and the steps necessary to gain control of an elderly person's assets. Pretending to take my usual afternoon nap, I waited until Amanda left for her dental office shift before conducting my own investigation. My hands shook as I climbed the stairs to the master bedroom where Derek and Amanda had been sleeping since moving in. Frank's old workshop had taught me to be methodical and careful, skills I never imagined I'd need for such a purpose. Amanda's dresser drawers revealed more than I'd expected. Hidden beneath carefully folded sweaters, I found a manila folder containing legal documents that made my blood run cold. Power of attorney forms were already completed, waiting only for my signature. The paperwork would grant Amanda complete control over my financial affairs, medical decisions, and property management. Deeper in the folder, I discovered printed emails between Derek and Amanda discussing their timeline for what they euphemistically called getting mom settled. The correspondence revealed that Derek's job loss hadn't been a simple layoff due to company downsizing. He'd been terminated for embezzling $15,000 from client accounts, a fact his former employer had agreed to keep quiet in exchange for repayment and Derek's immediate resignation. Amanda's gambling addiction was documented in credit card statements she'd hidden behind hanging clothes in the closet. Online casino transactions showed she owed $47,000 across multiple gambling websites. The debt was growing daily with compound interest and penalty fees that she couldn't possibly manage on her dental office salary. Their plan was methodical and cruel. They intended to have me declared mentally incompetent, move me to a state-funded care facility, and sell the house to pay off Amanda's gambling debts while establishing themselves financially. Amanda had already contacted 3 different real estate agents for informal property valuations, telling each that she was planning to sell her elderly mother-in-law's home after placing the woman in professional care. The most disturbing discovery was a small vial of clear liquid hidden in Amanda's jewelry box. Comparing it to my blood pressure medication, I realized she'd been diluting my pills with water, causing the dizzy spells and confusion I'd been experiencing. The dosage reduction was subtle enough to avoid suspicion, but significant enough to create symptoms that supported her narrative about my declining mental state. A tiny recording device tucked behind my bedroom dresser explained how Amanda always seemed to know private phone conversations I'd had with Carol or my doctor. She'd been monitoring everything I said in the privacy of my own room, looking for evidence she could use to support her case for guardianship. Derek's involvement was documented in text messages I found on an old phone in his jacket pocket. He'd been reluctant initially, but Amanda had convinced him that I was becoming dangerous and might accidentally hurt the twins. She'd painted a picture of an elderly woman whose cognitive decline posed risks to everyone in the household. Beverly's participation was outlined in handwritten notes discussing logistics. Amanda's mother planned to move in as my caregiver after I was relocated, helping maintain the house until the sale was completed. She'd researched which personal belongings might have resale value and which items could be donated for tax deductions. Amanda's diary, hidden in a shoebox beneath winter coats, contained the complete timeline. Get POA by Christmas, facility placement by February, house sold by spring. She'd calculated that the house sale would eliminate her gambling debt while leaving enough money for Derek and her to start fresh in a different state, away from his employment scandal and her casino problems. The twins had been coached to support Amanda's narrative. Notes in her handwriting reminded her to have Lucy and Sophie mention times when Grandma forgot our names or seemed confused about where she was. The children were being used as unwitting weapons in a campaign designed to destroy my independence and steal my home. While photographing these documents with Frank's old digital camera, I heard Amanda's car in the driveway much earlier than expected. Panic flooded through me as I tried to return everything to its original positions. I managed to get most items back in place, but Amanda's footsteps were already on the stairs when I realized the manila folder was still in my hands. She found me standing in her bedroom holding the evidence of her betrayal. For a moment, we stared at each other in complete silence. Then Amanda's expression shifted from surprise to cold calculation. "Well," she said slowly, "I guess we don't have to pretend anymore." I waited for her to continue, my heart pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. "You're having a psychotic break, Janice," Amanda said with convincing concern in her voice. "Going through other people's private belongings, making up wild stories about perfectly normal paperwork. This is exactly the kind of behavior we've been worried about." She pulled out her cell phone and began dialing. "I'm calling Derek and then the police. An elderly woman having a mental health crisis and violating privacy is exactly why you need professional help." But Amanda had made one crucial mistake. She assumed I was the same naive woman who'd been accepting her gaslighting for months. She had no idea that overhearing her phone conversation in the garden had already awakened something fierce and determined inside me. I wasn't going down without a fight. I forced myself to appear confused and apologetic, letting Amanda believe her intimidation was working. "I'm sorry," I said, allowing my voice to tremble convincingly. "I was looking for aspirin and got turned around. Everything looks the same up here." Amanda's expression softened with what appeared to be sympathy, but was actually satisfaction. She guided me gently from the room, explaining that confusion about location was common in people my age, especially when under stress. "Let's get you some water and help you rest," she said, playing the concerned caregiver perfectly. That evening, I called Pete Harrison, Frank's old lawyer friend who'd handled our wills and estate planning years earlier. Pete was 74, but still sharp as a tack with a practice focused on elder law and family disputes. I spoke carefully on my bedroom phone, knowing Amanda might be listening through her recording device. "Pete, I need some legal guidance about protecting myself," I said, choosing my words deliberately. "Some family members are pressuring me about my living arrangements, and I want to understand my rights." We arranged to meet the following Tuesday at his office while Amanda was at work. Pete immediately understood the seriousness of the situation and began explaining the legal protections available to prevent financial exploitation and forced guardianship. "Janice, what you're describing is elder abuse," he said bluntly. "We need to document everything and build a strong case to protect you." I started carrying Frank's old voice recorder in my cardigan pocket, a device so ancient that Amanda would never suspect its presence. The recorder captured several damning conversations, including one where Amanda told Beverly that I'd agreed to consider assisted living options and was finally accepting reality about my limitations. When Amanda suggested we visit some nice facilities to explore my options, I played along enthusiastically. "That sounds wonderful," I said, watching her smile grow wider. "I trust your judgment completely about what would be best for me." Carol arrived from Chicago the following weekend, ostensibly for a normal family visit. Amanda was delighted to have another witness to my supposed decline, but Carol was actually there to help document everything happening in the house. My sister posed as a concerned relative supporting Amanda's assessment, while secretly photographing the legal documents and recording conversations. A private visit to my bank revealed Amanda's attempts to gain access to my accounts. Margaret, the branch manager I'd worked with for 20 years, explained that Amanda had called multiple times asking about account balances, transfer procedures, and the requirements for adding authorized users. "I told her everything required your presence and signature," Margaret assured me, but she seemed very persistent about exploring options. I immediately changed all passwords and security questions, instructing the bank to require my personal appearance for any account modifications. Margaret also provided written documentation of Amanda's inquiries, creating an official record of attempted financial manipulation. Dr. Rodriguez was my next ally. During what was supposed to be an assessment of my mental capacity, I explained the real situation and asked for his help. He conducted a thorough cognitive evaluation, documenting my complete mental competence and providing a written statement that I was fully capable of making my own decisions. "This is unfortunately common," he told me sadly. "Family members sometimes use medical concerns as weapons to gain control." Amanda's confidence grew daily as I continued playing the confused elderly woman. I pretended to have bad days where I seemed more forgetful, allowing her to document additional evidence for her guardianship case. She began leaving obvious clues around the house that she was researching care facilities, confident that I was too impaired to understand their significance. Pete arranged for a private investigator to document Amanda's gambling activities and verify Derek's employment termination. The investigator, a former police detective named Sarah Chen, obtained casino security footage showing Amanda losing thousands of dollars during hours when she was supposed to be at work. Credit reports revealed the full extent of her debt across multiple gambling websites and loan companies. The coaching of Lucy and Sophie became more obvious as Amanda prepared for what she believed would be an easy guardianship proceeding. I heard her practicing with the twins, teaching them to say, "Grandma sometimes forgets our names," and "she gets confused about where things go." The children were uncomfortable lying, but trusted their mother's explanation that it was helping Grandma get the care she needed. Derek's therapy sessions, which I'd assumed were for job hunting stress, were actually court ordered treatment related to his embezzlement case. Amanda had convinced him that I was becoming a danger to myself and the children, making guardianship a necessary protection rather than an act of theft. His guilt about the stolen money made him vulnerable to Amanda's manipulation about family responsibility and difficult decisions. 2 weeks before Amanda planned to spring her trap, I discovered she'd already placed a deposit on a room at Sunset Manor, a state-funded facility with a reputation for minimal care and maximum profit. She'd forged my signature on preliminary paperwork, telling the administrators that I was experiencing rapid cognitive decline and needed immediate placement. Amanda had scheduled moving services for the day after she expected to gain power of attorney planning to clear out most of the house's contents while I was being processed for facility admission. Beverly had arranged time off work to supervise the move and begin preparing the house for sale. The most heartbreaking discovery was a letter Amanda had written to Lucy and Sophie explaining that Grandma was very sick and would be going to a special hospital where doctors could take better care of her. She'd prepared the children for my disappearance, framing it as a medical necessity rather than the theft it actually was. But Amanda had made one crucial miscalculation. She assumed that her months of gaslighting had actually impaired my judgment and ability to think clearly. She believed I was the helpless victim she'd been creating, unaware that I'd been methodically building a case that would destroy her completely. The final piece of evidence came when Amanda presented Derek with the completed power of attorney papers, telling him I'd agreed to sign them the following day. "Your mother finally understands it's for the best." She lied smoothly. "She knows she needs help managing things." Amanda had already scheduled the movers and put down a deposit on the assisted living facility. She believed victory was within reach, completely unaware that I was about to demonstrate exactly who was really in charge. Amanda organized what she called a family meeting for the following Sunday afternoon, ostensibly to discuss my care needs with everyone present. Derek would be there with the twins. Beverly was driving in from her apartment, and most importantly, Amanda had invited Janet Phillips, a social worker from the County Aging Services Department. I understood Amanda's strategy perfectly. Surrounding me with family members and an official witness would provide the ideal setting to present her guardianship case. Janet would observe my supposed confusion and cognitive decline, interview family members about their concerns, and provide professional support for Amanda's petition to gain control of my affairs. That Sunday morning, I dressed carefully in one of my older house dresses and deliberately messed up my hair slightly. When Amanda commented that I looked tired, I agreed sadly and mentioned feeling confused about what day it was. She smiled with what she thought was sympathy, but was actually satisfaction at my apparent deterioration. Everyone gathered in the living room at 2:00. Lucy and Sophie sat quietly on the sofa, clearly uncomfortable with the serious adult conversation they'd been prepared for. Derek looked nervous and kept glancing between Amanda and me, while Beverly positioned herself near the window with her arms crossed expectantly. Janet Phillips appeared professional and compassionate as she explained her role in assessing family situations where elderly individuals might need additional support. "I'm here to listen to everyone's concerns and help determine what services might be beneficial," she said gently. Amanda took charge, immediately presenting herself as the devoted daughter-in-law who'd been caring for an increasingly confused elderly woman. "Janice has been having episodes." She began pulling out her notebook of documented incidents. "Memory problems, disorientation, leaving appliances on, getting lost in her own house." I played my part perfectly, appearing frail and uncertain as Amanda recited her list of concerns. Derek nodded sadly when prompted, confirming that he'd witnessed some troubling behaviors. Beverly added her observations about hoarding tendencies and resistance to accepting help. The most concerning issue is safety. Amanda continued, her voice heavy with false concern. We're worried about Janice living independently. She needs professional care and supervision. Janet turned to me with genuine kindness. Mrs. Thompson, how do you feel about your family's concerns? I looked around the room with apparent confusion, then focused on Janet with watery eyes. I suppose they know best, I said in a shaky voice. Sometimes I do forget things. Amanda produced the power of attorney documents with a flourish. Janice has agreed to let me help manage her affairs, she announced. We've discussed it extensively and she understands it's necessary. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I straightened up in my chair, dropped the confused expression, and looked directly at Amanda with complete clarity. That's interesting, I said in a strong, steady voice, since I never signed anything and certainly never agreed to give you control over my life. The transformation was so sudden and complete that everyone in the room froze. Amanda's mouth fell open as I reached for the folder I'd placed behind my chair. I think Janet should see some additional documentation before we make any decisions. I continued calmly producing the photographs and recordings Pete had helped me organize. The first item I showed was the printout of Amanda's browser history detailing her research into guardianship laws and elder care facilities. This shows months of planning to have me declared incompetent. I explained to Janet, whose expression was shifting from confusion to professional alarm. Next came the photographs of Amanda's gambling debts and Derek's embezzlement documentation. $47,000 owed to online casinos, I stated matter-of-factly. And Derek was terminated for stealing $15,000 from his employer, not laid off as they claimed. Amanda tried to interrupt, but I held up my hand and continued. There's also evidence of medication tampering, forged signatures on preliminary facility paperwork, and coaching my granddaughters to lie about my mental state. I played the recorded conversation where Amanda discussed waiting for the old bat to die so they could take control of the house. Derek's face went white as he heard his wife's words for the first time. Janet Phillips immediately understood what she was witnessing. I was brought here under false pretenses, she said, her professional demeanor shifting to protective advocacy. This appears to be a case of attempted financial exploitation and elder abuse. Amanda finally found her voice. She's lying, she screamed, abandoning any pretense of concern. She's a bitter old woman who's trying to ruin our lives because she can't accept that she needs help. Beverly jumped to her daughter's defense, claiming I was making up stories and manipulating evidence. But when I produced documentation of Beverly's planned involvement in selling the house, she fell silent. Derek broke down completely, admitting he'd known about the general plan, but hadn't understood the extent of Amanda's deception. I thought Mom was actually getting confused, he sobbed. Amanda convinced me we were helping her. The twins looked terrified by the arguing adults, so Carol gently took them to the kitchen for snacks, while the confrontation continued in the living room. Amanda made one last desperate attempt to regain control. I'm calling the police, she declared, reaching for her phone. This is elder abuse. She's having a psychotic breakdown and attacking her own family. But I was already ahead of her. Pete Harrison walked through the front door right on schedule, followed by Deputy Michael Torres from the County Sheriff's Department and Linda Martinez from Adult Protective Services. Mrs. Thompson called us about a situation requiring official intervention, Deputy Torres explained. We're here to investigate allegations of elder abuse and financial exploitation. Amanda realized she'd been completely outmaneuvered. Her face went through a series of expressions as the full scope of her defeat became clear. She tried to blame everything on Derek, claiming he'd forced her to go along with plans to steal from his own mother. Deputy Torres began explaining the charges being filed: elder abuse fraud, forgery medication tampering, and attempted theft. Amanda would be arrested immediately, and the case would proceed through both criminal and civil courts. "Wait," Amanda said, desperately playing her final card. "You can't do this to me. I'm pregnant, 8 weeks along. You're destroying your grandchild's future." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this announcement. Derek looked stunned, clearly hearing this news for the first time. Amanda smiled triumphantly, believing she'd found a way to escape consequences. But Derek surprised everyone, including himself. "Actually," he said quietly, "I'm not sure the baby is mine. Amanda has been spending a lot of time with men from the casinos. She's had affairs with several regular customers there." Amanda's last manipulation crumbled as Derek found the courage to speak truth instead of supporting her lies. Deputy Torres informed her that pregnancy didn't exempt anyone from facing justice for their crimes. As the handcuffs clicked around Amanda's wrists, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. The woman who'd tried to steal my life was finally facing consequences for her actions. But the real work of rebuilding trust and healing relationships was just beginning. Amanda spent her first night in county jail unable to make the $50,000 bond set by Judge Williams, who'd seen enough elder abuse cases to understand the seriousness of the charges. Her gambling debts had consumed any available assets, and Derek refused to help secure her release. The investigation expanded rapidly once Detective Sarah Chen began examining Amanda's background. What initially appeared to be an isolated case of family financial abuse revealed a pattern of similar schemes targeting elderly individuals across 3 states. Amanda had been running variations of this scam for over a decade, preying on vulnerable seniors whose families trusted her apparent devotion and care. Derek's cooperation with the investigation proved crucial in building the prosecution's case. His detailed testimony about Amanda's manipulation tactics and timeline helped establish premeditation and intent. In exchange for his full cooperation, the district attorney agreed to recommend reduced charges, though Derek would still face consequences for his knowledge of the scheme. Beverly was arrested as an accessory after investigators discovered her active participation in planning the house sale and facility placement. Text messages between mother and daughter revealed Beverly's eager anticipation of profits from selling my belongings and property. She faced civil lawsuits for financial damages in addition to criminal charges. The private investigators' evidence proved devastating to Amanda's defense. Casino security footage showed her losing thousands of dollars during hours when she'd claimed to be caring for me. Staff members at multiple gambling establishments confirmed her regular presence and her discussions about coming into money soon when her elderly relative's situation was resolved. Amanda lost her dental office position immediately after the background check revealed pending criminal charges. The medical board launched an investigation into her theft of prescription medications from the office, adding drug-related charges to her growing legal troubles. Lucy and Sophie were placed temporarily with Carol, while Derek attended court-mandated counseling for his role in the abuse case. The children's therapist helped them understand that their mother had asked them to say untrue things about me, but that wasn't their fault, and they hadn't done anything wrong. The restraining order I filed prevented Amanda from contacting me directly or entering my property, though she violated these terms multiple times through fake social media accounts and third-party messages. Each violation resulted in additional jail time and strengthened the case against her. Derek's divorce proceedings moved quickly once Amanda's affairs were documented through casino surveillance and witness testimony. The pregnancy claim proved false when medical records showed no evidence of conception, another manipulation tactic that backfired when used in court. Derek's former employer decided to press charges for embezzlement after learning about the elder abuse case. The company's initial willingness to handle the matter privately evaporated when they realized Derek had used stolen money to support a scheme targeting his own mother. Amanda's sentencing hearing drew a packed courtroom, including several elderly victims from her previous scams who'd traveled to see justice served. Judge Williams sentenced her to 18 months in county jail, plus 5 years of supervised probation, noting that elder abuse cases demanded serious consequences to protect vulnerable community members. The court ordered Amanda to repay $23,000 in financial damages and emotional distress compensation money she didn't have and couldn't earn with her criminal record. Her probation terms included mandatory gambling addiction treatment, which she initially refused, resulting in additional jail time. Derek received 6 months of supervised probation and 300 hours of community service specifically working with elder abuse prevention programs. The judge noted that while Derek's participation was reluctant, his failure to protect his mother from his wife's abuse couldn't be overlooked. Beverly lost her rental apartment due to legal costs and had to move in with distant relatives in another state. Her role in the scheme destroyed her relationship with her own mother, who was horrified to learn about Beverly's willingness to exploit an elderly woman for financial gain. The most shocking development came when Amanda's cellmate recognized her from news coverage of a similar case in another state. The FBI opened a federal investigation into Amanda's interstate elder abuse activities, potentially adding decades to her sentence if patterns of organized financial exploitation were proven. Asset recovery proceeded slowly but steadily. The court placed liens on any future earnings Amanda might receive, ensuring that restitution would continue long after her release from jail. Her gambling addiction treatment was court-ordered, but her refusal to participate honestly meant she gained no benefit from the programs. Derek's genuine remorse became evident through his consistent participation in therapy and victim impact programs. He wrote detailed letters of apology, not seeking forgiveness, but acknowledging the full scope of harm his weakness had enabled. His supervised visits with the twins were contingent on continued psychological treatment and financial counseling. The twins' recovery proceeded more smoothly than expected. Children are remarkably resilient when provided with honest explanations and stable environments. Carol's presence next door provided additional security and support, while Derek worked to rebuild his relationship with his daughters. The house sale Amanda had planned never materialized, obviously, but I used the legal settlement money to make significant improvements. New security systems, updated bathrooms, and fresh paint throughout transformed the space from a place of manipulation into a true family home again. Amanda's probation violation for attempting to contact me through social media resulted in her return to jail for an additional 6 months. The fake accounts she'd created included threatening messages that elevated the charges to cyberstalking, ensuring her criminal record would prevent future employment in positions of trust. By the time Amanda was released for her final probation period, she faced a completely different world. No job prospects, massive debt-destroyed relationships, and federal charges pending. The woman who'd tried to steal my life had lost everything that mattered in her own. Derek's slow but steady progress in therapy began bearing fruit after 8 months of consistent work. He secured employment at Miller's hardware store, where the owner knew about his situation but believed in second chances for people genuinely trying to change. The federal investigation concluded with Amanda facing additional charges for running similar schemes in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Her pattern of targeting recently widowed women through casual acquaintances and family connections showed sophisticated planning and complete lack of remorse for the harm caused. Justice wasn't just served through the legal system. Amanda's reputation was destroyed in our community and beyond. Her exploitation of elderly victims became a cautionary tale used in elder abuse prevention workshops throughout the region. 6 months after Amanda's sentencing, I stood in my completely renovated kitchen watching Derek help Lucy and Sophie with their homework at the breakfast bar Frank had built 30 years ago. The house felt alive again, filled with genuine laughter instead of the tension and deception that had poisoned our family relationships. Derek lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment about 10 minutes away, close enough for regular visits, but far enough to maintain healthy boundaries. His supervised visits with the girls had evolved into shared custody, as his therapy progress demonstrated genuine commitment to change. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, plus alternating weekends, he brought them home for dinner and family time. The transformation in Derek was remarkable but hard-won. 8 months of intensive therapy had helped him understand how his fear of confrontation and need for approval had made him complicit in Amanda's abuse. He learned to recognize manipulation tactics and develop the backbone he'd lacked throughout his marriage. "Mom, I can never undo what I allowed to happen," he told me during one of our weekly coffee conversations, "but I can spend the rest of my life making sure it never happens again. To you, to the girls, to anyone." Carol's decision to sell her Chicago condo and move to the house next door had been a blessing beyond measure. My sister and I now shared daily coffee sessions, gardening projects, and the kind of deep friendship that only comes from weathering storms together. Having her nearby provided security without the dependency that Amanda had tried to force upon me. The twins flourished in therapy, working with Dr. Patricia Wells to process their mother's actions and their father's absence during that difficult period. Children adapt more easily than adults when given honest explanations and consistent support. Lucy and Sophie understood that their mother had made very bad choices, but that didn't reflect on their worth or their father's love for them. My involvement with the Elder Abuse Prevention Coalition began accidentally when Detective Chen asked me to speak at a community workshop about recognizing warning signs. That first presentation led to regular speaking engagements throughout Central Ohio, sharing my story to help other families avoid similar situations. The support group I started at St. Matthew's Community Center met every other Thursday evening, bringing together seniors who'd experienced various forms of family exploitation. We shared strategies for protection, legal resources, and most importantly, emotional healing from betrayal by people we'd trusted completely. Derek's job at Miller's hardware store suited his personality perfectly. Working with his hands, helping customers solve problems, and earning respect through competence rather than manipulation gave him confidence he'd never possessed. His employer, Tom Miller, became something of a mentor, showing Derek what healthy masculinity looked like. Beverly's isolation in her new living situation seemed to have prompted genuine reflection. She wrote a lengthy apology letter from the nursing home where she now resided, acknowledging her role in the scheme and expressing horror at her willingness to exploit an elderly woman for financial gain. I chose not to respond, but I didn't harbor anger toward her either. The college funds I established for Lucy and Sophie were protected by trusts that only I controlled, ensuring their education would be secure regardless of future family circumstances. The girls understood that their grandmother's love came with wisdom gained through experience, not naivety they could exploit. My friendship with William Patterson Frank's old bowling teammate had developed slowly into something deeper. We attended church together, shared meals several times a week, and enjoyed each other's company without rushing toward any major commitments. At our age, companionship, and mutual respect mattered more than passion or romance. The house itself reflected the positive changes in our lives. Fresh paint brightened every room, new windows improved energy efficiency, and updated fixtures brought modern comfort without losing the warmth Frank and I had built together. The workshop in the basement became Derek's weekend refuge, where he was teaching Lucy and Sophie basic woodworking skills. Amanda's final probation violation resulted in federal charges that would keep her imprisoned for at least 8 more years. Her appeals were denied, and her attempts to claim victim status in the media were ignored by a public that understood the difference between justice and revenge. The most unexpected development was my relationship with Janet Phillips, the social worker who'd witnessed Amanda's downfall. Janet and I discovered a shared passion for elder advocacy, leading to a collaboration that brought professional social services and grassroots community support together in new ways. Derek's success in rebuilding relationships with his daughters proved that genuine change was possible when someone committed completely to the hard work of personal growth. His weekly therapy sessions continued by choice rather than court order, and his relationship with the girls grew stronger each month. The book I'd started writing about my experience became a resource guide for families dealing with elder abuse. Working with Pete Harrison and other legal experts, we created a practical handbook that combined legal information with emotional support strategies. The royalties went entirely to the Elder Abuse Prevention Coalition. Lucy and Sophie's art therapy sessions produced beautiful drawings of our family that now decorated the refrigerator and hallway walls. Their pictures showed Grandma, Daddy, and Aunt Carol together in various activities, with no mention or representation of their mother. Children forget what they need to forget and remember what serves their healing. On quiet evenings when Derek brought the girls for dinner, I often found myself marveling at how completely our lives had transformed. The woman who'd tried to steal everything had actually given us the gift of clarity about what truly mattered: honesty, respect, genuine care, and the kind of love that protects rather than exploits. The final legal settlement from Amanda's case allowed me to establish the Frank Thompson Memorial Fund for Elder Abuse Prevention, ensuring that my husband's memory would be associated with protecting vulnerable seniors from the kind of exploitation we'd experienced. As I sat on the front porch that fall evening watching Derek push his daughters on the swing set he'd installed as part of his apology and healing process, I reflected on the journey that had brought us to this peaceful place. I'd learned that setting boundaries wasn't selfish but essential. When we don't protect ourselves, we enable others to treat us poorly and ultimately harm everyone involved. Real family supports independence rather than stealing it. Trust must be earned through consistent actions over time, not demanded through blood relations or emotional manipulation. The people who truly love us want us to be strong, capable, and free to make our own choices, even when those choices don't directly benefit them. Most importantly, I'd discovered that age doesn't make us powerless, unless we choose to surrender our power to people who don't deserve it. At 67, I was stronger, wiser, and more determined than I'd ever been. Amanda had tried to destroy my life, but had actually taught me how valuable and worth protecting that life truly was. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where someone you trusted was taking advantage of your kindness or generosity? How did you recognize the warning signs, and what steps did you take to protect yourself? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below, because sharing our stories helps others recognize similar situations before it's too late. If this story resonated with you or reminded you of someone who might be facing elder abuse or family manipulation, please like this video and share it with others who might benefit from hearing it. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself and finding strength in difficult situations. Thank you for listening to my journey from victim to victor. Remember that it's never too late to take control of your life and demand the respect you deserve. Take care of yourselves and keep fighting for what's right.